Yep.
See, I never got, you're gonna send some.
I reset it.
Address 760.
The link beyond the doc. No, there's no. So when I show the email, it's just the extension. So it's just the Dropbox link.
You know, how long, that's key coordination and all that stuff, and then, what it, you know, to.
Well, there should be.
Everything, so, and then I'll come to you guys. Much more.
Yeah, but anytime you guys have issues with opening that sort of stuff.
I think I'd be great.
Because you need to get.
Good to see you. Nice to finally meet you. Wait, we're loving the way the building's looking.
Steve, how long have you been on television? 8 years. I'm pretty sure of that number. Yeah. It's been torture. 7 years. It just sort of like all runs together, and it's just, I lose track of time. Wait till you get 30 years. It's just gonna be, yeah, then it's all gonna be just a blur.
Opening for membership, and I was applying, getting membership. And I just heard them say that they're.
That's what I would take that.
'All right, we bring in the meeting to order.
Not bothering us. These guys have got a place to go. Should brought some toothpaste to give out to the Russians. Hey. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a little not promising. That's good.
You'll see Taylor Swift ended that concert was $2.2 billion.
Wow.
One, they went both for billion in the United States.
A lot of money.
She's like her own economy.
Really. Her own country.
Yeah, I know all my patients that come in, they're Swifties, they're just like over the moon about it. They're like, yeah, I saw her 6 times.
Oh
I
my
had a
gosh.
patient, she's like, I flew to Canada just to see her and flew back. And I was like, oh my
All
God.
my surfing buddies, his wife, they were like, this is the best concert I've ever seen.
I remember that.
I had one patient that didn't even have tickets. She like flew to the city that she was
She could be outside.
just to stand outside the concert. I mean, I got some musical favorites on my Spotify, but there's nobody I'm going to do that for.
Well, after Amy, they went down to the Miami show. So I was kind of paying attention, and apparently she was saying cheapest ticket was, remember how many $1,000, but it was behind a column
Mhm.
where you couldn't see.
The obstruction
Yeah,
view,
yeah, the
yeah.
obstruction view, it was still calling.
I had a
Yeah.
staff member, there was like a pre-sale. But you had to have a specific credit card. So she
So my
opened up
roommate got one
a
for
credit
me.
card to go see this person. I'm like, wait a minute, opened up.
I never went, but I'm glad she did. People went to crazy lengths.
So I spent $200 to go see Iron Maiden in the Fed in Charlotte, and I'm like, this is.
Splurge.
This is easy. This is cleared the way for me to go.
Right. I think she ended up paying $600 or $700 or something to see Taylor. Right.
Flights.
We were like, we haven't been to a concert in like a decade. So we were like, let's go see Zach Brown band. We're coming to Nashville. Nosebleeds were like $500. But like, never mind.
First thing on the agenda is approval of the old business.
I move that they be approved.
Second.
Any discussion? Anybody see it? Anybody read the minutes?
We were here, so.
Well, how do you know it's written the way it is? Okay. Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Nay. New business, DMS 13015110005, 209 West Fifth North Street. Okay, Zone NX, owned by Deaton Properties LLC. Okay. They want to request to variance request to parking location, frontage building build out requirement ordinance in District 1. Okay, all right. Any discussion? Go ahead, please. Being interesting what you've got laid out.
Hi, so I'm Abby Ranson, and I am the project engineer from Bowman working on the Deaton Dental project. This is currently a 0.51 acre site. It's on the corner of North Pine Street and Highway 78 or West 5th North Street. It's currently zoned neighborhood mixed use. Currently, it has a little less than 3,000 square foot building on the property with gravel parking area and a strip of asphalt parking as well. The Deatons will be requesting a 0% building frontage along West Fifth North Street. The Deatons have been wanting to update their standard of care for several years. This has gone on for about 3 years now. They've put in lots of time, lots of effort, lots of coordination into figuring out the exact placement of the building, what they want to do with the building, if they want to keep the existing building and add on to it. Originally, when I was brought onto the project, this was a building addition from the existing building. However, after getting a DRB preliminary review and getting some feedback from them, we went and discussed with SCDOT and Dorchester County on their widening plans for Highway 78. And we couldn't really come up with a good consensus of where that widening would fall on the property. This obviously threw a hardship into our plans and figuring out where we could add to the building, or if we can even keep that existing building where it is. And so that kind of just drove us into a different direction. And that's kind of where we are now. We have been in lots of coordination with SCDOT and Dorchester County. We've talked to their project engineers. No plans have been finalized yet. They have advised us to wait until the plans can be finalized. However, that is obviously a very, very long time out from now. We're not even sure if the funding has been provided for that widening project. So this kind of drove us to this direction. We now want to place the building towards the back of the property. It wouldn't be that far away from Highway 78. And we would also be providing some beautiful landscaping, working with David Tomlin's company and LFK Architects as well on this rendering and the landscaping, trying to create something that's beautiful for the town of Somerville, not only to, meet the standard that is the streetscape along that highway, but also to enhance it and to create a parking and some park establishments and welcome in the streetscape from Highway 78 and North Pine Street. So with that, I'll turn it over to the Deatons.
Let me ask a question. What's that right in the front?
That would be a park area. We had received some feedback from the DRB advising us to create something that's more welcoming from the streetscape. That would be along Highway 78. So creating more landscaping in that area, some benches, mulching, and then sort of a wall. That's kind of what they advised us to put in. And I'm sure David can speak a little bit more to that. That's kind of his wheelhouse. But looking forward to a more beautiful, more opening, welcoming space instead of just a parking lot. Any other questions for me before I turn it over?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So there's green space in the very, very front near the road.
Mhm.
You're leaving that, assuming that would provide, if and when the widening comes, enough space for them to take for the widening,
Right.
and that won't affect the sidewalk you have, or may not, I guess, I don't know. But you think you're providing enough space for the widening?
Honest answer right now, we have no idea. Because that's one of the reasons we're here this evening. I'm David Tomlin. I'm the landscape architect. Been on this project for 3 years now. And in earlier concepts, we were developing buildings that were set up on this front property line because that's where we're here tonight. We need to conform with the ordinance, put 60% of this building up on this front of this parking, up on the property line. We immediately, when we started doing our diligence on this site, I reached out to Davis and Floyd, who's the project engineer, and said, "Hey, where are you with this?" Their lead civil engineer said, "David, we don't have funding for this." We had gone to some of their initial DOT presentations, and they do the little cross sections. And we had taken the picture of where that we thought the right of way line was, and started working with Tim. And he said, "I like it. I like your idea that you're going to rebuild here. You're going to keep the dental office here. Let's start putting pressure on SCDOT." The town reached out. we immediately started going to DRB so we could turn around to Davis and Floyd, which is our conduit. And once we got Abby on board to start to talk to Dorchester County, that was our conduit to say, we have a owner here actively trying to rebuild their building. And that's Tim's idea was, let's get you in DRB process, because then we can say, we've got a project. Somebody has to give us a direction, or this client can't sit here and go into Neverland of just going back. DRB told us, they said, we love your idea, but we got to get this solidified. So we think where the end of our parking right now is, that's the property line. And DRB gave us good response. And they said, you got to get your variance, but we start to think, if you could, since all the other buildings are going to built up to the streetscape, if this corner property, since it is right now in this special gray area with this hardship, that if you built this pocket park and it's got columns and things that, start to march around and say, we've got intent up here. We're not, it's just not a parking area. That we see this project could go along, but you got this special issue. You've got to get through it. And at the end of our last DRB, we've gone to 4 DRBs now, 3 with buildings up front, moving forward, and then went, we don't have an answer. We just got our latest letter from DOT and they said, we'd suggest you not build on the property. I can't tell my client that, who spent all this money trying to get here. They've got to move. They're a young couple. So we said, let us come to y'all and ask. We believe this is a special exception. This is a hardship that's been placed on this property for right now. We don't know the end of when this hardship will be alleviated, but we're at a point where we've got to move. Client we were just talking about, he's got a whole building that doesn't have all the new technology that the dentistry and have. And, it's time for them to decide whether they occupy this building to the point where they can't anymore and they move away, or either way. So, again, David Tomlin kind of rambled on, but I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Anybody have another question? I have a question.
Sure. Yes, sir.
What's that white building?
That's Oscar's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Oscar's has always been using our back parking lot, and you'll see people coming through back and forth.
Yeah, really.
If they decide, if they were at this point right now, and they wanted to build an addition, they'd be under the same hardship or issue that we would be. The town would be asking them to build up onto the front of the building for the property line.
Well, now that little road right behind your new building, is that where those cars from Oscar's were parked at yesterday?
No, sir. They were pretty much parked right in that building footprint of where we're showing that new building.
Oh, they were?
Yes, sir. Our gravel parking lot comes back and there's some bushes and everything.
Yeah.
That's kind of that fluffy little thing that you're seeing right there. That in the back, I believe, is a driveway. So
in other words, you're wanting to put this right at the very back
yes, sir.
side
Yes,
of it.
sir. Because as tight as this property is basically right at 1 acre. And do you have in our packet some of those earlier sketches that we were working with Tim? They were black and white. I think Abby included them.
They're gonna be at the bottom, sorry.
I think there's 1 or 2 that we actually looked at, trying to keep on scrolling down. That's current. There we go. One after there. That one was one where we were trying to put it in the middle. As we know, medical office has 3 per 1,000 or something like that. That a medical office building with a dentist office needs at least 7 to 8 per 1,000. We've got him with that new layout, just right at where he thinks he can function, because his staff is half the people that, park at the office. So you can see us where we're trying to locate it in between. So that's one of the things we would definitely want to emphasize tonight. We're not coming here at the first of this project. We've been working through of trying to, how can we make it work? There's one that hit the 60%. It was right up on the front parking.
Is that a county or a city requirement on the?
That's city. That's part of your overlay zoning. It's part of kind of the downtown zoning of, let's try to, in these old properties that the property might have been, the building might have been in the back, let's try to get them up front. It's a great urban concept ordinance.
So just to explain a little further on the requirement, so because of the zoning being neighborhood mixed use, they cannot technically have parking in front of the building. So that's one of the variance requests for tonight, is to allow parking in front of the building. The other request is that they would typically be required to have a minimum of 35% frontage build out. So having 35% at least of that front property line as a building fronting there. So those are the two variance requests before you.
So what's wrong with the existing building? Why can't you wait?
Well, let's.
I'm Redding. I'm the dentist that's been practicing in this building for the past 8 years. I bought the building from Bob Randall. You might have known him. He was a dentist in the area for 43 years. There was a dentist before him, Dr. Riley. So this building has served the community for 60 plus years as a dental office. I've got a lot of patients that have been patients of the practice for all those 60 years. As a clinician that's walked these hallways for the past 8 years, there's just constraints on an older building that you can't really equip with the newest, nowadays you need cone beams, you need scanners, all these things that didn't exist back when this building was created for a dentist that was practicing in the 60s. A dentist that's practicing in 2024 needs building that's equipped with different things, different things that I can't provide for my patients. So to maintain a standard of care, I have outgrown this building, as far as clinically, as far as space, many reasons, not to mention I'm almost falling through the floor in some parts of my building. It served a very good purpose for many years, but it needs either an upgrade or I need to move. And so we went down the upgrade route. The SCDOT has always been the linchpin. I mean, the last thing I want to do is build this out, make it beautiful, and then SCDOT come in there and say, hey, by the way, you're in our right of way now. We want to tear your building down. So by having this variance in the back, even if they got rid of that park let's say they widen it more, they wouldn't be coming through my building. They would be coming through my parking lot. So accommodations could be made at that later date, be that 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. That would be a whole lot simpler than having to take part of the building or all of the building away. So that's one of the reasons I'm here for the variance is because of the uncertainty of the DOT. And also I'm just kind of handcuffed with the potential I can provide for my patients at this moment in time.
One of the other team members we don't have, and I apologize, Pete McCullough with Harbor Construction, who's one of the leaders of this. He specializes in dentists, doctors' offices and things like that. So all along, when we were trying to retrofit the building and kind of going, DOT is going to give us an answer and will tell us, okay, the cost to retrofit what he had locked, but he was ready to take it on. If again, he could have defined that DOT right of way.
And from my understanding, they're going to take my front entrance anyway, when they widen this. So my only entrance is going to be right here off of North Pine anyway. So that's going to be into the front of my building. So it sets me up better for the future. I mean, just all around, it's just a better, and with it only being a 0.51 acre property, which I'm about to relinquish some of that with eminent domain here. So it's probably going to be even less than that. There's just so much you can do with that property and build a building and have the right amount of parking spots. That's the new proposed building right there. Yeah, that's the existing. That's my existing building that I've been practicing in for a number of years now.
Danny, if we're being asked to approve parking in the front, as Oscars obviously does, that's one of the two things, Becca, that we're being asked to approve?
Yes, to allow parking in the front and then to reduce the 35% requirement to 0, which essentially it's the same request. You're allowing the building to be placed at the back of the lot rather than where it would normally be required per the ordinance, which is up front.
I don't have a problem with that.
It's just another point, and this doesn't really play to the variance so much, but as far as this is my sole source of income. This is my, my patients are at capacity in this building. My staff there's a staff member in each individual room there. So to do a build out, I was going to have to handicap half of my building, shut it down, remodel it while and work out of the other half. So from a business standpoint, I would probably lose staff, I would probably lose patients, and I would definitely lose revenue. In order to equip it. So that's just another little caveat that would help me to have a new build that I can transition into seamlessly while working in my current footprint and standard.
And help the team maintain their jobs.
Right.
And help maintain continuity of care for
Right.
the Somerville community.
Becca, can we go back to the new building?
Also
All right.
partner.
Okay, thank you. Gary,
Yeah.
go ahead.
Okay, now, let me just get this clear, because basically what you're saying, with the new building, the park is not gonna really be existing because of the new road.
It could be depending on how wide they go with it. We
Yeah.
don't have all the
But-
details on that.
Do you have anything behind this new building where you can add extra spaces at all? You're right up to your
Up
property
to
line.
the tree line, which we're gonna keep
Okay.
that little tree line intact
Okay.
there.
Right, yeah.
Go back. That white building on North Pine Street. That's your new building?
Yes.
Okay, so when I asked the question before, you said, no, that's Oscar.
No.
No, okay, no, okay, that's why I asked about the white building.
Oh,
I
okay.
know that over there is Oscar.
Okay.
Okay, so now we're just talking about that piece of property. Okay, go ahead.
I just think that keeping the business in town, I mean, you guys have been here for so long, as long as a business, you maximize what you have and you're kind of in a rock and a hard place. You don't know what SCTOD is going to do. That's really the unknown, like you said. I mean, I like the concept. I think Oscar's next to him already parks up front. So I like to make motion to
I
approve.
just have one more question. Becca, is there any precedent?
Petro, when you're not speaking, turn it off.
Is there any precedent to this?
Okay.
Or are we making precedent tonight?
So there are a few projects further down Highway 78 that have met the requirement. They're not similar in scope. You'll know the two buildings that are right up front on 78, going further out of town. One's going to be a spa. They're two commercial buildings up front and they have townhomes behind them. They're still under construction now. That's the most recent project that has had to adhere to this requirement. These requirements were put in place when the UDO was put in place in 2019. There haven't been a lot of turnover projects on 78 in that specific corridor. So this is probably one of the first 5 to 10 that are going through this process and having to adhere to the UDO guidelines of having the building up front at the street frontage.
Okay, so the mixed use, the reason you want parking in the back is, I'm assuming from aesthetics from the road, basically?
Correct. You bringing the building to the front of the property rather than having the streetscape be full of parking lots, which is why the design review board suggested that the applicant create not so much a park, but some sort of buffer to be inviting to pedestrians. And so that's why they have added that. That wasn't something that the applicants came up with. It's something that the design review board suggested.
Okay. Okay, so you're not rezoning it, you're keeping the same zoning.
Same zoning, it's just a variance request for those two requirements, which essentially decide if the building can be on the front of the lot or on the rear.
Okay, I just would remind my fellow members that we could be setting precedent here for the future by this. Okay.
Any other questions? Anything? Okay. Can I hear a motion?
I'd make a motion that we approve the request.
Have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, I don't have anything other to discuss on the agenda tonight. So unless you have any questions for me, we can get a motion to adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Thank you, guys.